When I call your name, every fear is banished from here. When you call my name, I'll come running, running to you. And you say, come to me. Spread your wings, catch the wind, he's carrying you.
Shalom and Shana Tova. Happy New Year to all our wonderful viewers. And this is the first edition of Jerusalem Dispatch ICEJ UK for 2025. And this is the ministry that brings you a closer connection to Israel and the Jewish people through the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem UK. And in this month's programme, we shall be marking the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau, also known as International Holocaust Memorial Day, and giving a vision for the ministry for 2025. And in this month's programmes, I'm joined by Joanne Lakota, who's the ICEJ UK's administrator, essentially runs everything, and also Pastor Jonathan Croft, who's the London regional leader. So welcome to you both, and welcome to the first Jerusalem Dispatch of 2025.
That's great.
And Joanne, I'll kick off with you. It'd be wonderful if you could give us an update. Firstly, Happy New Year to you and your family for 2025. Share with us how the ministry of ICJ UK has really blessed Israel and the Jewish people over the course of 2024, but also the financial blessing that our viewers and supporters of ICJ have been able to raise in order for the ministry to really stand with Israel and the Jewish people during this very difficult year that was 2024.
Yeah. Well, Happy New Year to you and to everyone who's watching. It's great to be here again. Yeah, as you've just said, it was a very busy year, very, very busy year. We did a lot of things, as we do all the time, you know, and you asked financially. Well, I'm really, really delighted to say that the UK donors, supporters of ICJ, raised over £500,000 for the ministry in 2024, and it's just wonderful. It really, really is. Obviously, a lot of that was for Israel in crisis and the projects that we're doing surrounding all the humanitarian aid and support, you know, ambulances, bomb shelters, food parcels, emergency accommodation, all those kind of things. But also quite a significant chunk was for Aliyah. I just thought I'd highlight that really, because it kind of shows that our supporters really understand the significance of Aliyah and the return of the Jewish people to their homeland, and they want to get behind that, and we're really grateful because it's a really integral part of our ministry.
Wonderful. And Jonathan, Happy New Year to you and your family.
Happy New Year, Simon. Happy New Year, John.
And Jonathan, reflect on 2024 regarding Israel, but also the ministry of ICJ UK.
I mean, it's been a great year again, as Joanne has just said, that the finances have really been a blessing, not just to UK, because we send so much over to Israel. And in this very difficult and challenging year for our Jewish brothers and sisters, to be able to support them, to be able to give where there is need, genuine need, in some of the kibbutzim, the Holocaust homes, the food packages that we've just heard about. It's been a real blessing. And the other thing for me is that the continual prayer that has taken place every single day for over 430 days. It's incredible. It's even more now. But it's just incredible. And average-wise, there's about 1,000 people around the world on those calls every single time. And I feel that, you know, with that prayer initiative from ICEJ, it really has enabled the whole ministry to continue to grow, because I genuinely believe those who bless Israel will be blessed. And as the ministry of ICEJ, both UK and worldwide, that's what we've sought to do. And I really believe that as a ministry, there is real blessing, and because we're blessing the people, the ministry has been blessed.
So let's look at one of the highlights of 2024, and this was the Solidarity Feast of Tabernacles that took place in Jerusalem this year under very trying and difficult circumstances.
But just as there's something of a mystery to the hatred against the Jewish people, there's a mystery to the love. But I can tell you that your own prophets, the Hebrew prophets, spoke of a day when the Gentiles, those who once oppressed you, would come bowing down, humbling at your feet. Isaiah says that I will bring you the wealth of the Gentiles. And God would use the Gentiles to build your walls of Zion. Oh, I wish I could have built some of these walls.
First few seconds, just to take a look at all of you and just appreciate your prayers, you being here with us, supporting us, our community, our region. Thank you. Thank you all so much, first of all.
Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit.
And we need to understand that God is revealing His mercy to His people again. And we are called to be the witnesses.
This nation's testimony is going around the world. If you think that little Israel has had a testimony before, you wait. You wait.
תודה רבה. ממש תודה לכם, אתם מקסימים.
To see the people around the streets being touched by our support, our love, that really marks us in a different way.
יש הרבה אנשים בעולם עכשיו שהם לא אוהבים אותנו ולראות אנשים באים והם לא יהודים נכון ונותנים את האהבה, זה ממש מחמם את הלב.
And this small nation still exists. Why? It's not because who they are, it's because who God is. If God promised, He keeps His promises.
Believe and receive the newness of life.
Worship is the expression of your spirit. That's why God is not so much looking for the worship more than for the worshipper.
And no doubt that the Feast of Tabernacles 2025 will be bigger and stronger than before, particularly now that the restrictions are easing and we have an opportunity then to visit Israel once again in 2025. Joanne, share with us how the ministry of the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem UK has been able to equip the church with a biblical understanding of God's plans and purposes for during the course of 2024.
Well, we've done this programme with you every month, haven't we?
Absolutely.
And it's been really, really good. And I should mention also the webinars that we do. We do those on a Thursday night, usually the first Thursday of the month. And on those webinars, we've had some really, really good guests, Christian guests, Jewish guests. We've had politicians, we've had authors, some really, really great teaching as well. And also from our own team, you know, our own ICEJ team. So I think over the year, we've had 8 regional conferences. I went through them all. We've had 8 regional conferences, so up and down the country. In the north, we've been into Scotland, Northern Ireland, and also our team. We've been invited to various prayer groups and churches to share. Jonathan here went over to Jersey not long ago, so you know our team do get about up and down the country, and it's great to be able to meet people and share about the work of ICEJ and give some really deep biblical teaching. But you know, our conferences are more than that, because they're also a great place for people that already understand about Israel to come together and get with like-minded people, because they may be isolated in their church, they may be the one or only 2 people who really get it. And so when they come together to our conferences, it's a great time of refreshing and uplifting, and just encouraging for one another to be together.
Yeah, wonderful. And Jonathan, share with our viewers watching this programme today why it's essential that they get involved in the ministry of the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem UK, to be part of the ministry, to be a blessing to Israel and the Jewish people in 2025.
I mean, first of all, I think God asks us to bless Israel. And so, how do we do that? And how to practically can we bless them? Because we all can't travel there every other week. So how do we do that? And to connect to ministry that is based in Israel, it's a fantastic opportunity. And so therefore, the resources that we put on our websites, on YouTube's or in all the media, to connect with them, and also financial giving. It means that we can really then support people in that land, which I believe is the biblical mandate that God gives to us, to really be a blessing. It talks about prayer for Jerusalem. That's another way we can, as individuals out there, you can connect with our prayer and the way that we pray every single day for the nation and what is going on in that land. So for me, it's connection with other organizations that are on the ground over there. And this is a fantastic, and ICEJ, we're involved in so many different aspects of life over there. And we put so much material online as well for our viewers.
And you're heading up the 2025 ICEJ UK's visit to Israel and the Holy Land.
Absolutely, it's in November 2025 this year, and I can't wait to get back, and I would love you guys to join us. We're going to be seeing the people of the land as well as the Capernaum, the Sea of Galilee, Jerusalem. It's fantastic, Simon, and you know full well, Joanne, you've been as well. Just to go to the land, to see it for yourself, it's like black and white becomes colour. And to be in places where you know that Jesus would have been in those areas. It's fantastic. And then to meet with people who are genuinely doing things in the land is fantastic. So November the 17th to the 25th, more details will be coming online.
Wonderful. And Joanne, can you just share with our viewers the vision of the Ministry of ICEJ UK for 2025, but also some of the exciting conferences that are in the offing for this year?
Okay, yeah, well, it's getting very busy already. I think we've got something every month pretty much planned for 2025, in-person conference, or crucially, our kind of push for this year are these days of prayer. So back in October, David Elms and two pastors from Liverpool had a vision for a day of prayer, and it was a day of prayer and fasting, and people from different nationalities were represented to present their petitions to the Lord from their nation, for Israel and also for their own nation. And this is a vision really for 2025, that we replicate this in different towns and cities across the country, a day of prayer and fasting. But yeah, conferences as well in the, back up to Scotland, over in Northern Ireland. Yeah, we've got a lot planned for this coming year, including a special young adults conference that we're really excited about for the summer. So more details will be on our website and distributed soon.
Wonderful. Yeah, and just want to say thanks to Brian and Elizabeth from Northern Ireland for hosting me for their summer conference, which was fantastic, brilliant hosts. And Jonathan, the travel restrictions are starting to be lifted, thankfully, to Israel. But sadly for many of us, going to Israel was very difficult in 2024. Israel's at war against Hamas and Hezbollah. And of course, we had the Iranian kind of ballistic missiles being fired at Israel twice during 2024, which meant it was very difficult. But share with us this new series on social media called You Can Enjoy Jesus in the Land series that is shown on the YouTube channel of ICEJ.
I think any information coming out of Israel, where you are videoing certain areas where, En Gedi, that's where David was, and other places where the video camera goes with some commentary. it's a way of being able to view the land up until you come on the tour in November. It is an amazing time where you can just go and see and hear something of what has happened in the Bible. You know, it's so important that, you know, when you go to the land, whether it's through a video, YouTube or whatever, or physically, you see this book coming alive. And it's exactly what walking through the land does. It's taking you to places that are in the book, and you see for yourself where the characters in the Bible would have been. Walking, En-Gedi was where David's hideaway was. So things like that is perfect, and it's great.
Yeah, so let's have a look at this excellent series produced by ICEJ in Jerusalem that's Walking in the Land with Jesus. And this series or episode is actually in En-Gedi, which is a beautiful nature reserve right next to the Dead Sea.
Picture this. You're traveling through the desert towards the promised land. You're tired and thirsty. And then you spot a beautiful oasis, shades, springs, a chance to rest. Would you settle in the oasis or continue towards the promised land? En-Gedi is this beautiful oasis situated on the western shores of the Dead Sea. It's also known to be where King David hid while being pursued by King Saul. Sometimes, God will give us an oasis like En-Gedi in the midst of the desert so that we can be refreshed and regain strength. But these aren't our final destinations. We must keep going. We have to continue our journey through the deserts to the promised land, the fullness of God's promise. How do we do this? We need faith and vision. May Jesus grant us with fresh faith and new vision, so as we follow Him, we can endure the journey to receive the fullness of His promise.
And I believe a new episode comes out every week so you can walk the land with Jesus series and visit some of the most amazing, astonishing places in Israel. It actually feels like you're there. Joanne, what would you say the threats and the challenges, but also the opportunities facing Israel as a nation this year in 2025?
Oh, that's a big question, isn't it? There is so much going on, and I kind of feel like there's like this, things seem to be settling down, but yet there's always going to be tension. And even like with what's happened in Syria just recently with this new regime taking over, they say they're moderate, but does anybody really believe that? And so I think the challenge obviously is going to be for Israel to keep the borders secure there and keep their hold over up on the Golan Heights. Obviously, I think I'm hopeful that things in Gaza will be sorted this year, but I know Israel will keep going until all of the hostages are free and returned home. And the challenge there, I guess, is what do we do? What do they do? What do they do next? And how do they rebuild Gaza? But there's a great opportunity there to get the peace and re-establish themselves in Gaza and create a community there for the Palestinians and the Israelis. And I mean, I don't know. I guess is the answer. And you know, internally, I hope those issues that were a problem before the 7th of October, they will all need to be sorted out as well, won't they, with the judiciary and Netanyahu. And I mean, it's certainly politics, which is very lively. It's just always going to be like this, like I guess in any country. But I think what's encouraging is this wave of Aliyah, and the fact that the Jewish people are still even in a time of crisis like this, they're still wanting to move home. And in 2024 there were at least 32,000 that made Aliyah back to Israel, and that's encouraging, and I think that's a real opportunity for the country to
Chief
strengthen.
Rabbi, hasn't he? He sort of called people back at the moment.
Well, not surprising with the kind of pandemic of Jew hatred that we're seeing today.
And so more and more people, even the highest Jewish councils, are saying go back home, and so it's important, Aliyah.
They're really.
But be a big loss for our nation if
Most definitely.
a huge number of Jewish people make Aliyah. There's certainly the brains and the creativity and the drive behind the country will go like that. But Jonathan, on another note, we have seen incredible answers to prayer, haven't we, in 2024? If we look at the start of 2024, Israel hadn't gone into Rafah, where the Biden administration, together with our government and other European nations, were putting huge pressure on Israel not to go into Rafah, which was the last stronghold of the bastion of Hamas. Israel still had the threats and rockets raining down from Hezbollah. The Iranians during 2024 sent over 200, in the one wave, 200 ballistic missiles at Israel, which, praise God, we saw God's hand of protection during that time. And it looked like Israel was heading for defeat, but within a year we've seen that circle of fire surrounding Israel collapse that the Iranians have spent decades and spent billions building up. So we saw the destruction of Hamas in Gaza, destruction of Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, the fall of Assad's regime, and now the Iranian regime, Israel's biggest enemies, are on the verge of collapse. Just share with us how prayer has made a huge difference for Israel in 2024.
I mean, I know ICEJ have been praying every single day since October the 7th, and, you know, I believe in the power of prayer. And I know that ICEJ aren't the only group that have been praying for God's plan and purposes to unfold in that land. I think people need to understand that it's a spiritual thing as well. You're seeing things in the natural, but there is a spiritual reality. There's an enemy out there that seeks to destroy Israel. And, you know, ultimately, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, not natural. There's something that prayer does in the heavenly realms that I actually believe Christians need to be aware of. Because ultimately, you know, if you're just taking your news from newspapers or media channels, then you're going to get a skewed report. You need to understand what the word says and, you know, communicate with the Father through prayer so that you actually can hear what is on God's heart. And ultimately, God's heart is for the Jew and Gentile. It's one new man in Christ in Ephesians. And, you know, ultimately, you know, prayer is effective, it works. And I believe it has pulled down the strongholds and powers that have come against Israel. There is a real clear message. Those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And, you know, ultimately, there's a lot of people out there at this moment in time who've spoken ill of Israel. And God knows those things. And I really believe that He's, you know, in what happened in Syria, the prayer that God has been crying out, protect that land. I believe He's done absolutely that. The ballistic missiles you mentioned, the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, you know, all those people who opposed Israel, those prayers have gone up to the heavenlies. And I believe the God of Israel has come and protected His people and actually destroyed so much of the surrounding areas of people who've come against Israel.
Absolutely, and of course these are people that want Israel's destruction as well, and now they're finding that they are being destroyed as well, which is incredible.
They still do want that. You know, they're still, you know, if you look at the people even in Gaza, statistically they're saying we still want the destruction of Israel. Even after what's happened in Gaza, 80% of the buildings are now not there anymore. And so there is going to be a rebuild, and we need to pray because there are Christians, a very few minority, but there are Christians in Gaza still.
Absolutely.
We still need to pray.
Definitely. The world is holding its breath until Donald Trump is inaugurated as America's 47th president as a second time on Monday, the 20th of November, which is his inauguration. And that seems to be a game changer for kind of Israel and the Middle East. And I suppose the big question, and share with us your thoughts, that will America be a blessing to Israel?
I hope so. I actually think yes. You know, the world is watching Donald Trump. He will make history for lots of reasons. Some maybe not so good, but love him or hate him, you know, the strong feelings aren't there on both sides. But he does tend to get things done, and his track record in his last term for Israel was good. I don't need to list all those to you, but you know, and I think the world will be watching. He's got this kind of superhero image of himself that he's going to stop all the wars, and so people will be waiting to see if he can actually do that. But on a serious matter, obviously the hostages, you know, that's the big thing, and he's making waves already to do that. I saw an interview with Michael Oren, a former ambassador to the US, and he seemed to think that Trump will say to Qatar and Iran, get the hostages released. This was a few weeks ago, this interview, and then a few days later, Trump posted on social media, those hostages had better be released by the time I'm president. So, you know, I think that he will fight hard for the hostages, and I think that we can pray as well, like you've been saying, God answers prayers, and let's see for the hostages, Trump may be the answer.
Absolutely. So, Jonathan, on Monday, the 27th of January this month marks International Holocaust Memorial Day, but it's also a special anniversary as well because it represents the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau by the Soviet Red Army during the Second World War, and this was the last of the biggest Nazi death camps. As Christians, share with us the importance of marking this somber day and standing with our Jewish brothers and sisters as we remember the 6 million precious Jewish lives that were murdered at the hands of the Nazis on an industrial scale over 80 years ago.
It's so important that we don't forget what happened 80 years ago. And what happened to the Jewish people. 6 million Jews were murdered by the regime. And it's so important that, you know, history doesn't sort of push it to a side. We need to keep it, you know, right central. And so to have a Memorial Day every year, Holocaust Memorial Day every year is so important for our nation. Because the young people, if they don't hear this, it be watered down. And so it's so important and so crucial that as people in Great Britain that we celebrate, or it's not a celebration, but it's important that we do not forget what happened 80 years ago as a nation. So for me, it's even as Christians and as a pastor of a church, it's so important that we speak out about these things. We speak out about the Holocaust, and we join with the Jewish community in remembering the 6 million people who lost their life, murdered by the regime.
And Joanne, you mentioned the Holocaust of Jewish people, and it still casts a huge dark shadow over the Jewish people in the nation of Israel today, 80 years on from the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau. Share how the ministry of ICEJ UK has been able to bless and stand with the Jewish people as they mark and commemorate the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau, but also remembering International Holocaust Memorial Day that falls on the 27th of January.
So within ICEJ, we try really hard to show our love and our support. It's really important that we stand with the Jewish people on that day and just to be there so that they can see the Christians are standing with them. The Holocaust was partly perpetrated based on years and years, well, centuries of Christian anti-Semitism and persecution and bad teaching and false theology. And so as Christians, we have to make a stand and say that was wrong. And if we support the Jewish people at their events and have our own events, we're saying we're sorry. We're also showing our sorrow, and we're just being there, showing our love and our compassion. And I don't think we can underestimate the value of that. Over the years, we've done joint events with the Jewish communities in Manchester and London, and these have been so well received and really appreciated.
Wonderful. And Jonathan, I think this year takes on greater significance, the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau, but also the 80th anniversary, the end of the Holocaust and the end of the Second World War. But share us how Israel experienced their own Holocaust on October the 7th, and since then we've seen this pandemic of Jew hatred attack the Jewish people, and the Jewish people today are feeling scared and vulnerable and under threat, and how we have to stand up and make a difference and comfort and reassure them during this difficult time as we mark International Holocaust Memorial Day.
I was recently speaking to a Jewish friend of mine. We were actually marching an anti-Semitic march in London just a few weeks ago. And I was speaking to this Jewish friend who was actually being interviewed by GB News. And this person just said that since October the 7th, the Jewish community in the UK have feared for their lives in many, many ways, going on buses, having to have extra protection for their children. This is the UK in 2025. And, you know, it's horrifying to realise that what happened 80 years ago, or 80 plus years ago, back in 1933, and those 6 years before the war began, what was happening back then with the silence of what was taking place, because there was rumours, things were happening in 1933, yet the church remained silent. And, you know, ultimately, you know, that Jew hatred began back then. It's happening again now since October the 7th in a greater way. It's never actually stopped. There's always been anti-Semitic or Jewish hatred around. Because it's a spiritual battle. It's not just purely them and us. There is a spiritual reality to these things. But ultimately, my friend, and you know, who is a Jew, understands that Jew hatred is consistent even now, and statistics in our country it's horrific. But ultimately, with what's taking place, is that the church can't be silent. Christians can't be silent. They were silent for 6 years back in 1933 when it began to stir in Europe. And please, God, in this country, let the church arise and let the church stand for the truth of what God is saying, because ultimately if we remain silent as the church, we're literally just going with what happened in Germany in 1933. The church, Christians need to stand strong. We need to speak up about the Holocaust, what is actually currently happening in our day, not just 80 years ago, but now.
Amen to that. And let's have a look at this very moving testimony of a Holocaust survivor. Her name is Maya Herman, and this is an extract of her remarkable story. The rest of it you can see on ICEJ's YouTube page.
שמי מניה הרמן, ומילאו לי לפני חודש 90. גם אני לא מאמינה לעצמי שאני כבר בגיל כזה. ניסיתי לתעד את השואה, וכתבתי את הספר, וגם שירים כתבתי. יש לי פה בין הספרים ספר שירים בנושא השואה. ובהמשך, כשאני כבר התחלתי לצייר באופן כללי, אז כל פעם אפיזודה אחרת שנזכרתי בה, אמרתי, אני אצייר אותה, שגם מעט יראו מה שאני חשתי ומה שאני ראיתי. אני נולדתי בבסרביה, שהיום זה מולדובה. אני כבר הייתי ילדה בת 8, ולילה אחד דפקו בדלת אצלנו, כמובן שנבהלנו. פתחו את הדלת, נכנסו 2 חיילים ואמרו, יהודים, תתכוננו לעזוב את הבית, תיקחו מה שאתם יכולים איתכם לסחוב ותצאו מהבית. לא נאמר לנו למה, מדוע, לאן ואיך לצאת מהבית באמצע הלילה. באמצע הדרך פתאום אני רואה את סבתי הזקנה עם מקל, והיא בדיוק פגשה אותנו והצטרפה אלינו. אז בסוף לקחו והפרידו גברים ונשים, הפרידו בינינו. אני נשארתי עם אמא שלי עומדת במקום. אבא שלי, זיכרונו לברכה, היה בן אדם שכל דבר זכר. הוא סיפר אחר כך, אחרי שחזרנו מהשואה, שהלכנו 3.5 חודשים. כל יום איזה 30 קילומטר. כשאמא שלי יצאה לדרך, היא הייתה בהיריון. אבל כנראה שקרה לנו נס, שבדיוק עבר עיקר עם עגלה רתומה לסוס. לקחו את אמא שלי והושיבו אותה בתוך העגלה. אחר כך הוא לקח אותנו וצירף לשיירה. אז הגענו שוב לאיזשהו כפר, כנראה שהסכימו לקבל את היהודים שם. במקום הזה היינו מאוד עייפים, רעבים, ושכבו לישון על הרצפה. אני הייתי כל כך רעבה שלא יכולתי להתאפק ופרצתי בבכי.
So that was an extract of Maya's incredible survival and surviving the Holocaust, and it's important that we watch and we hear and we read about the survivors of the Holocaust, because it's so important to keep their memory alive, because few and few are left right now. Share with us your thoughts on Maya's story there, and also other stories of Holocaust survivors that the Ministry of ICEJ have been able to help Joanne.
Yeah, it's a really moving story, isn't it? And tragically, her experience was repeated far, far too many times. People being forced from their homes and forced to march and ending up in concentration camps, and unspeakable cruelty. And, you know, like she said in her thing, there are 6 million who didn't get to tell their story themselves. So it is really important that we document. I visited the Haifa home. You know, ICEJ has a home for Holocaust survivors in Haifa. And I visited there a few years ago, and I met a lady, and she hadn't spoken for 40 years about it until she realised that she needed to. She needed to tell her story because she needed to make sure the world knew and didn't forget, and so that it wouldn't happen again. And it is really, really crucial. And the work of ICEJ in sponsoring this home is crucial, absolutely crucial. We're providing a wonderful home environment. Actually, it's a series of apartments in a neighbourhood with a communal area. It's a wonderful, wonderful place for around 70 Holocaust survivors in Haifa.
Yeah, wonderful. But it's also important, isn't it? You touched on this earlier, Jonathan, about the importance of Holocaust education to the younger generation. Either that's Generation Z, or the millennial generation, or the generation that's coming up as well, that they need to know what happened in the Holocaust. They need to be reminded of what happens when Jew hatred comes out of control, because what starts with the Jewish people never finishes with the Jewish people, and that spirit comes after the Jewish people, then it comes after everyone.
At the end of the day, they'll be coming after the Christian next, the spirit that's behind it. But it's so important that the young, our young people in our nation, they remember what happened 80 years ago plus. And they do that by the clips that we've just seen of Maya and other testimonies of survivors. The stories are so important, and obviously they're not young anymore, these survivors. They're getting to the end of their lives. And how are we going to communicate this? It's up to you and me to tell the stories of these incredible people who survived such a terrible fate in the concentration camps. And you know, the way we do that is by collecting materials, video clips, the stories of the witnesses. And so therefore we can be those witnesses too, because we've heard testimony, and we can then speak about those testimonies to the younger generation so they do not forget.
Amen. And Joanne, share with us how we can also admire the righteous among the Gentiles, those, many of them Christian, but not always Christian, who just really did everything they could to help the Jewish people, particularly the likes of Corrie ten Boom come to mind in the Netherlands, who her family helped to protect and smuggle Jewish people and protect them from the Nazis during the Nazi occupation in the Netherlands.
Yes, well, thankfully Corrie ten Boom and her family didn't hold to any form of replacement theology teaching, and they realised that the persecution of the Jews was evil, and they risked their lives. They risked their lives to save, I think it was 800 people, I think it's estimated that they saved in what they did. And there were so many others like her, and we can be challenged by Corrie, can't we, to think, what would I have done? Would I have put my mouth where my heart was, you know, back then? Would I have been the same? And, you know, just recently there was the terrible attacks in Amsterdam after the football match. And I'm really thankful that our ICEJ directors over there in the Netherlands made a stand, made a statement, and it's a challenge to us all in that. But it's good, as we've talked about, to just keep educating and to make sure that the word gets out there. And you know, if I can do a little plug for our a little book that we had, this was written a couple of years ago actually. It's called The Forgotten Righteous, and it tells the stories of 10 people, lesser known heroes really of the Holocaust, who risked everything to save Jewish people during that terrible, terrible time. So we've got this book on our website if anyone's interested in getting a copy of that.
Wonderful. So let's have a look at Nicole Calder talking about her hero of the Second World War and the Holocaust, Corrie ten Boom.
My name is Nicole Yoder, the Vice President for Aid and Aliyah at the International Christian Embassy. And my Holocaust hero is Corrie ten Boom and her amazing family. At age 12, while watching the movie The Hiding Place, I first learned about how the ten Boom family saved Jewish people during World War II. Using the family watch repair shop as a cover, they built a hiding place in their home to protect those who came to them while they looked for escape routes and places of refuge for them. For 2 years, Corrie and her family were part of the resistance. Corrie helped save 100 Jewish orphaned babies, and it's estimated that some 800 Jewish people came through their home before they were betrayed by a Dutch collaborator. Nearly 30 other resistance members were arrested when the ten Booms were betrayed, but the 6 people who were in their hiding place were saved. Corrie and her sister Betsy were sent to Ravensbrück concentration camp, where Betsy eventually died. Corrie was released from Ravensbrück due to a clerical error at the end of 1944. She went on to open their home to Dutch collaborators and those who were spiritually and emotionally damaged by the war. She worked in Germany, helping the destitute, and spoke around the world about forgiveness. Corrie's story inspired me as a young person to learn about the Holocaust, but her work and example after the Holocaust challenged me to consider what I could do today to carry forward that legacy of friendship between Christians and Jews. In many ways, I am here serving in Israel today because of how Corrie's story inspired me. Many times when hearing about the Holocaust, one is tempted to wonder, what would I have done? Corrie challenges us to think, what can we do now to create a better future? I am proud to participate in Yad Vashem's Holocaust Hero Project, and to serve as an ambassador of Holocaust remembrance. I encourage you to submit your Holocaust hero to Yad Vashem as well.
And it's so important that we honour and pay tribute to those brave men and women who risked their life during the Second World War, during the Holocaust, to rescue and save the Jewish people. You mentioned earlier, Jonathan, about how the church in the 1930s was quiet in the face of rising Jew hatred in Germany in the 1930s. But there was one man who defied the entire Nazi regime, and that was Bonhoeffer. So share with us your thoughts on this remarkable man who was actually then assassinated and murdered by Hitler just before the end of the Second World War.
He was an incredible, and actually there's a film that's just come out about Bonhoeffer and his life. And I recommend every viewer and us, I haven't watched it yet, but I want to go and watch it myself. One of our church folks is being part of it. He was part of the filming and things like that. So I definitely want to go and see it. But, you know, it's about a person's life. It's, you know, a biography. It's a film about his life. And so therefore, it's so important to understand what he did, what actually he did. He stood up for truth. He stood up for the Word of God, and no matter the persecution that he suffered, the amount of times that he was told to shut up, etc., he remained a person who spoke up for truth. And I believe we need to do that again in this country now.
And he also tried to be involved in the plot that actually tried to assassinate Hitler as well. So he's a very brave and courageous individual. And this is Dr. Jürgen Bühler speaking about his fellow countryman, Bonhoeffer, and his admiration for the work that he did to warn the church in the 1930s of the danger of Nazism and the impact that Nazis would have if they came to power in Germany in the 1930s.
Shalom, my name is Jürgen Bühler. I'm the president of the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem, and my personal Holocaust hero is Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was an evangelical pastor who had a very clear stand against the Nazi regime in Germany. He was fighting against Adolf Hitler to a degree that he even conspired with Count Stauffenberg in the assassination of Adolf Hitler that unfortunately failed. As a consequence of this attempt on Hitler's life, he was imprisoned, and just a few weeks before the suicide of Adolf Hitler, the Führer himself made sure that one of his arch enemies, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, would be killed before there would be a surrender to the Allied forces. Dietrich Bonhoeffer also was known for his very clear stand in regard to the Jewish people, saying that if you don't stand up for the Jewish people, your whole Christian liturgy becomes meaningless. He also made a very clear statement about the responsibility of the church towards the Jewish people. He says if you don't stand up for them, he says the church lost its legitimacy. And because of that, he is my hero. I'm today very proud to participate in Yad Vashem's Holocaust Hero Project and to serve as an ambassador of Holocaust remembrance. I encourage you to submit your Holocaust hero to Yad Vashem as well.
And that was paying a tribute to Bonhoeffer, who defied the Nazis in the 1930s and tried to wake up the church regarding the dangers of Nazism. And he paid the ultimate price with his life to bring awareness of the dangers of Hitler and the Nazi regime. Coming down to the end of the program now, but can you unpack for us, you mentioned it a little bit before, Joanne, but the importance of the home for Holocaust survivors. Sadly, there's very few left, but those who are still alive, they need that comfort, they need that support. But share with us and unpack for us the important work of the home for Holocaust survivors in Israel.
Yeah, like I said earlier, it's this great community in Haifa. There's home for around 70 residents, Holocaust survivors. It's well known across Israel, and it's a real expression of our Christian love for these dear people who've suffered so much and who need a little bit of help towards the end of their lives to live comfortably, safely, in community, make new friends. And they've got this communal place. There's a dining room, they eat together, they have recreation together, entertainment, they go on day trips, the healthcare is sorted out, they have physical therapy, they've got mental health therapy as well. This last year, since the 7th of October has been really, really challenging for a lot of the residents who, 16 actually are from Ukraine, were brought from Ukraine, rescued from Ukraine. And so they've, this brought back a lot of terrible memories for them of past wars and of the Holocaust. And so, but the home has been there as a comfort, it's a safe place. And this year, so much has gone on over the last year, renovations and new safe rooms. An ambulance has been purchased by ICEJ. So it is our kind of like flagship project, if you like. I don't know if that's the right word for it.
That's definitely the right word.
But it's a wonderful, wonderful place.
So let's have a look at this now flagship project of ICEJ UK, which is the home for Holocaust survivors.
You know, when we talk about home, the first association is to speak about family. And this home indeed has become family for the survivors. It all started in 2010. Shimon Shabak, who directs today this house, he had a small soup kitchen here in this neighborhood. And he saw that Holocaust survivors were coming to his soup kitchen, and he felt if there are needy Holocaust survivors, we need to do something about it. And he asked us to come, and he showed us a small apartment where he wanted to host 13 Holocaust survivors. He said, can the Christian Embassy help us to purchase that building? I looked at the entire building, which was a 4-story building. I felt the Lord talk to me, and I said, Shimon, why don't we buy the entire house? I was driving away from Haifa and thought, oh my gosh, what did I do? And how do we ever get this money together? I was pleading with the Lord, please help us. We have 5 months time to get the money together. For me, the biggest miracle was to see within 2 weeks people were sending us so much money like never before that after 2 weeks we could purchase that building. And within those 5 months which we had, we could even purchase 2 buildings.
אני רואה גם שיש פה יד אלוהים במקום הזה. וללא המרקם בין השגרות הנוצרית ליד עזר לחבר, המקום הזה לא יכל להתפתח. אז אני רואה בזה, במדרגה ראשונה את הדבר הטוב ביותר שקורה, ולא סתם באים לפה בני נוער, חיילים, שהם שומעים שנוצרים, הם מחזיקים את המקום, הם מתנדבים במקום, זה מראה שאפשר גם את ההיסטוריה לשנות בצורה טובה, והשגרות הנוצרית היא דוגמה לכל הנוצרים בעולם, איך אפשר לעשות דברים אחרת, ואתם עושים את זה גם ככה.
What I could see is that this house is providing an inner healing to those people to deal with their past in a positive way. You know, as a German, to see this home, and it's very humbling in many ways. You come from a country which wrote the darkest chapter of Jewish history, and today to be here and to see that you are able to open a new page in the life of the Jewish people, it's very touching. people from all over the country, they are applying. We want to be at the home for Holocaust survivors. And the very sad story for me is that many of them we have to tell, no, we don't have the finances to add more people to it. So it's really my vision that by the end of this year, even we have 100 people here, or that we can expand this house here in this next few years, even for a couple of 100 survivors. Time is running out in Israel, and we need your help to continue this operation here in Haifa and even to expand it. The keys are in your hand. Please help us to open the door and welcome them home.
And this is one of the flagship projects of the Ministry of ICEJ UK and the Ministry in Jerusalem to bless the Jewish people, particularly the Holocaust survivors. And this is a wonderful project to get involved in. Jonathan, share your thoughts on this wonderful project, which is a home for Holocaust survivors, to look after them, to comfort them, but also times of the Jewish feast to go round and to give them company, because many of them come from the former Soviet Union. Many of them don't have family or friends in Israel, and many of them are lonely.
Most of them are isolated, and therefore that's why ICEJ are doing what they do. Providing them a home with a community is so important, and actually thanking the viewers as well for contributions to help towards looking after these guys is so crucial.
Excellent. And John, we're coming to the end of the programme now, which has been a good programme with 2 minutes left, but share with us, our viewers watching Jerusalem Dispatch, maybe for the first time ever, how they can get involved and be part of the ministry that is the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem, and be a blessing to Israel and the Jewish people, particularly at this critical time.
Yeah, well, I think join our mailing list is a big one, isn't it? You know, if you join our mailing list, you can you'll get our emails of what we're doing here in the UK. You can also find out what's happening in Jerusalem. You can get the word from Jerusalem magazine. I would also really recommend that people get on our YouTube channel and watch all of our previous Jerusalem Dispatch episodes, and also highlights from our conferences. And follow us on social media, that's really crucial, really good. Follow us on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram. And it's a really good way of keeping in touch, and also liking what we share so that it gets out there and the word spreads even further.
Wonderful. And within 20 seconds, Jonathan, how can our viewers watching the programme today make a difference for Israel through the Ministry of ICEJ UK for 2025?
First of all, prayer. So key. Get involved in that. Sign up, as Joanna is saying, to our websites and get that information, and come to Israel with us.
Wonderful. Yeah, don't forget that. So Jonathan and Joanne, wonderful job you've both done on Jerusalem Dispatch, and I want to thank you for watching this programme today. We want to wish you a wonderful 2025, and what a wonderful opportunity to get involved and bless the ministry of ICEJ UK by supporting this ministry and be actively involved, and even go to Israel in the tour in November with Jonathan, which will be a real blessing. So shalom, and God bless from us, and thank you for watching today's Jerusalem Dispatch.
Catch the wind, he's carrying you.